time I think I'm growing up. And then she ran to take my hand underneath the moonlight.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome,
Hey.
welcome, welcome to Scape Music Day Out, the pre-event live stream where we feature performances, interviews, talks with local artists and industry players in the music scene. Really, really fascinating day. Just to start out, Music Day Out is an annual event organized by Scape. It is back to celebrate the local independent music community. This is the third year returning in the hybrid format. Music Day Out is a festival that supports and recognizes youth in Singapore's culture through curated programs and showcases to support homegrown artists, which are so important. The festival encompasses performances from a stellar lineup of youth music talents and panel discussions with regional industry professionals such as the lovely three that we have here with us today. Music Day Out is happening on the 18th to the 23rd of October, starting today. So we welcome you guys. Starting things off with a really fun, fascinating panel that we have coming up. Also, be sure to check out Scape's website to follow social media for updates. There are various things happening across different venues across Scape. So really register your interest soon as slots are limited. This is not an open attend event. So get your interest in, find your slots, get in there, meet some great people, have some amazing conversations, and let us learn a lot today. So my name is Andrew Mam from Barmir Productions inside Cambodia. I will be your moderator today. We're so excited to have you guys here with us. Today, we're going to be talking about a fascinating subject, tackling emerging markets, with three experts from this Asia Pacific region. So let's enjoy this conversation for the next hour. Let's definitely learn a lot from each other. We have so many different perspectives and history and levels of experience across this specific concept and topic of tackling emerging markets here in the region. So first, I'm going to do an introduction one by one. I'm going to start with Chris Bowers, Chris B, as for short. Chris B is the founder of Underground Hong Kong and the Mellow Yellow Music Festival and has more than 30 years experience in Hong Kong's music industry. Many, 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 many moons and many changes. So she's seen so many different waves across Hong Kong, and that's such a fascinating thing to me. She is known as Chris B to music lovers in Hong Kong, and she has been dubbed the tattooed fairy godmother of the Hong Kong scene. That's a pretty damn good title. I know, I love it. It's a great title, but it was a well-earned name. You know, her tireless work as a champion of the city's arts and culture. Since founding the music organization, the Underground HK in 2004, Chris B has become synonymous with the grassroots music scene in Hong Kong, having produced more than 500 events in that time. Welcome, Chris B.
Oh, wow, that was an introduction. Thank you, Andrew. Nice to see you all here. And this, it's an honor to be on the panel. So
Appreciate having you here. We really, really do. It's going to be really fun today. All right, next up we
yeah.
have Elodie Sobzak. Elodie is a music projects leader and creative consultant. She creates platforms and advocates for indie artists throughout events, content production, design, talent management, aka she does it all. Uh, she is the founder of Pulse City, an arts and music consultancy, and co-founder of the art collective Piensa Rasa. She is currently based in Singapore after having worked for many years in Myanmar at the heart of the indie music scene. Welcome, Elodie.
Thank you. Really happy to be here with all these awesome people.
Pleasure to have you. Last but not least, coming from the Bay Area, Sunset District, where I'm also from. I'm a little biased. We have a great guy who I've gotten to know over the last few months, Joff Cruz. Joff Cruz took his first steps into the music industry when he began promoting shows in Manila during the mid 2000s. His record label, Kinda Salt, eventually turned into a promotions company that has helped to transform the live music scene by providing a stage for international acts such as Grimes, Toro y Moi, and Explosions in the Sky. In 2016, he has moved to Hanoi and booked international acts such as Jose Gonzalez, Lucy Rose, and William Tyler, and recently created the Swan Zoo Mini Festival. So, Joff Cruz, welcome to the panel.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. So, all right, the topic today is tackling emerging markets, understanding new music markets around Asia. We're going to talk about a few different things. Just for some background on myself, as I also will be sharing a little bit of my perspective. I am Andrew from Barmay Production in Cambodia. We're a music label, talent agency, concert production agency, video production house, aka do it all, losing sleep, 9 to 9, 24/7, never stops. But really what is great is that, we have a couple of really amazing internationally facing acts, such as Vanda, who is really rising, recently dropped his song, Time to Rise, at 76 million views at this point within a few months, which is the first exported international hit from Cambodia, especially at that level of streaming, which has been a fascinating concept. So for me, as compared to, say everyone else here who has experience in Singapore, Hong Kong, Manila, Vietnam, Cambodia, it's just emerging. So the perspectives that we have here are quite different, but also almost like an expedited version of, what, the rest of these regional players have been able to experience and see. So I think this sort of mesh of experiences and concepts, I think is going to be really fascinating for us to talk about. So we're going to start off. We'll go one by one. I think everyone will just talk a little bit more about your history and your background in, this exact concept, tackling an emerging market. So maybe what I'll do is I'll start from Joss, because you're on my top right, and I'm moving like a clock right now. And what I'll start saying is, Joff, you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, but also tell us about your experience with tackling emerging markets when it comes to the live promotions industry, with music adoption, with bringing international acts in, as well as promoting local acts. Just give us a bit about yourself and, what you've experienced inside this time period.
Okay, so yeah, I started promoting shows in Manila in the Philippines around, I think, the mid 2000s, maybe 2006, 2007. I was in a band as well around this time. And that led into me becoming a promoter. And I started doing shows around 2010 to about 2014. And then I moved here in 2016 to Hanoi. And I just continued doing shows here. It's definitely a different market compared to Manila. But I've been able to adapt to that, I guess.
Great.
Sorry, what were the questions again?
So the question would be, so when you were, growing inside your experience inside these different locations, when it came to tackling emerging markets within, say, the spaces that you were in, whether it be Manila, Hanoi, Singapore, what sort of challenges did you face? What were sort of the kinds of thinking that you approached trying to grow music inside these scenes? And what sort of perspectives did you hold from the early stage, and how have they evolved?
Yeah, so I guess in the early, like 2010, there was definitely an emerging market for live music. Like before, we used to just have like mainstream bands perform in Manila, pop music or like old bands from the 60s or 70s and 80s come and play Manila. So I sort of helped start like a little like a live indie scene in the Philippines. Back then there was like no competition for like a good 3 or 4 years, which was good. Um, like that was yeah, I miss those days. And and like
Oh,
gathering like marketing data was just like just asking people in the scene like, do you think this band's gonna work here? Um, I was just thinking we're just taking guesses really. There weren't a lot of analytics online yet. So yeah, that was a challenge. Yeah, it was like gambling really.
sure.
But
But
yeah,
how has that
those are good
changed?
things.
How has that changed nowadays in
Um,
terms of that
yeah,
jump?
I think yeah nowadays you can look up bands likes number of likes followers, so you can get an idea of how popular they are. So that's become easier, but it's also more competitive now because everyone has access to data like this. Um, so yeah, that's one big change. Um, and yeah, you have to keep up. You really have to keep up with who's popular on like TikTok or Instagram because that's where you're getting your data now too. It's not from TV, it's not from MTV or
Right,
MySpace anymore. Now it's
right,
maybe not even Facebook so much.
hmm
Yeah, yeah.
right. Okay, great. All right, so Chris, I'm going to go to you next. So you've been doing this for 30 years in Hong Kong. Can you tell us a bit about what it was like? Strategies for artists. Building out. Trying to get out inside the earlier days, and how has that changed as your experience from then to now?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's similar to, I mean, 30 years is a long time, and I've been putting on shows for about 20 years. I've been in bands too.
Mm,
So, I mean, it's changed a lot in Hong Kong. And of course, with the whole, like you said, the internet thing, when we first started doing shows, it was all flyers, right? And word of mouth and no data. So you had to guess. But yeah, there was less competition. But it was also, I mean, Hong Kong is quite, I want to say unique, but it's quite different. I mean, it's really small. Hong Kong is tiny, in fact. It's a really, really small place with 7 million people in it. And not everyone's into music, right? And it's mostly Chinese, right? So although the fact every single person was forced to play the piano or violin growing up, God forbid if they want to go into the music business as an adult. Jesus Christ. And I'm like, what a waste, right?
I
And
know.
practically, it's kind of this, it's weird, but it is what it is. And like the underground is 17 years old now. So it was started as an accident 17 years ago when I was in a new band and wanted to play original music. And it was impossible to find anywhere. There were like bands playing covers, doing 3 sets over here. And, so we just made it up as we went along, like found other new
Mm,
bands that were playing original music and came together and discovered I quite like it. And I quite hope I still have that talent for it, and putting
right.
shows together. But it was accidental. But it's I truly believe if bands and musicians write original music, create original lyrics, they're speaking what is really, it's reflective of their society, of their culture, and it's better than doing covers. In that respect, there's nothing wrong with cover bands. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. So it's been a struggle because I know it happens in every market. Like also that thing like I'll just wait for the international bands because they're really good and there's nobody good here, right? And then when you show
Right.
them the great bands that are here, they're like, "Oh my God, where's this band from?" Hong Kong. No, 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 no. Where's this band from? And
Wow.
I thought it was just here, but actually it's worldwide. I've heard people in London tell me they'll wait for something not from London because it must be better. It must be good, right?
Mm,
It's an interesting human nature thing. So we fight against that, and we kind of have to educate people that actually people who write original music work much harder than a cover band does. I mean,
Yes,
they do. Yeah,
certainly.
it's like they
They're high
must be
risks, you know.
dedicated. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Pouring yourself out
yeah,
there, every little note, every single detail matters, and you're just throwing it out there
yeah,
for people, hopefully, to accept. Wow, that is actually
yeah. And
fascinating to me. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and back to the data thing. Like, I mean, Facebook is popular here, and Instagram. We're TikTok banned here. It's been banned for about a year. Although my teenage daughters have worked out. Oops, should I say this publicly? But you can't use those music as reference, right? So it's like Instagram and Facebook, but you also don't know if people really like them, right? You
Right,
can it's I don't think you can 100% rely on that data, not here anyway. It can
right.
be, yeah. So yeah, anyway, that was my comment.
That is fascinating. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, having these numbers of likes also, I'm sure you guys have seen it. You can buy those likes. You can buy followers. You could check out somebody's Instagram. There's 750,000 followers, but each post gets like 2,000 likes. Like that's not even close to 10%. Like, so it's really tough to really follow along. Sometimes you're just piercing your way through the data. So that is actually really interesting. I think we should talk about that most definitely. But before we get to that, I'm gonna get to Elodie, and then we'll open up into a more open kind of conversation. So Elodie, really fascinating because you got your start inside Myanmar. I mean, not your start in music and life, but really in the music scene in Myanmar before now coming to Singapore, which is a bit more of a developed market. So can you tell us a bit about your past going through this, tackling an emerging market, an almost, and I can relate being from Cambodia, an almost forgotten market in some senses of Myanmar having been closed off for so long politically, and then again now having again more issues similarly to the past. Tell me about how was it to try and build growing artists. What kinds of advice you were giving as from your music and arts consultancy. How was it growing things out inside Myanmar?
Yeah, so actually, I arrived in Myanmar in 2014. So it was really at the beginning when the country was just starting to open up. So things were quite fascinating, and I spent 6 years there, and I really 6 years there, and I really saw how the market has evolved incredibly fast. And so basically, I was coming from a country where you had a lot of censorship. Because being under military rule, a lot of
Right.
songwriters had to get censored. There was a lot of copy songs. A lot of also of the people didn't have access to any music from outside of Myanmar. So it came from that to suddenly, as I like around 2014, actually the country opened up. There was like everyone was starting to get connected, was kind of starting to get access to mobile networks. They discovered internet through Facebook, and all of
Right.
this starting to
Right.
get like to blow up. So it was so a lot of things have changed in that way. As Chris was saying, the industry was a lot the same in the sense you had a lot of mainstream bands. It was, but underground bands existed, but they were like, I cannot play anywhere, so let me create my own show. This is how so a lot of the indie scene has come to play. They decided to just take the matter into their own hands and just starting shows, finding other bands who were the same, like trying to do originals that were quite different from what you could hear in the radio, or the cover bands that were playing around town. And this has played a huge role. But in terms of the big shifts, it's really as streaming platform came into play in the country, the things have really changed. In the country, you don't have Spotify. There's still a lot of platforms who are not yet in the market, so it makes it very specific to that. So it's but other players like Jukes saw a big opportunity because this is the beauty of emerging market. As things like change really fast, as soon as it opens up, you have to go there. So Jukes game was quite an aggressive policy where they were like, I want all the content. So they gathered all the catalogs from like famous artists, but they were also like, I want all the music. So all the indie artists, underground artists were also finding a place for them to put
Wow.
their music out there. And it was so on the same platform, you would have some of the most famous acts along with some of the crust punk band that have been playing underground shows for the past 10 years. So this
Wow.
has played. It's pretty cool. And
That is fascinating.
Facebook. Facebook has played also a huge role as people were just like diving into the platform. This is where bands hang out. This is where people get their followers. Instagram is starting. TikTok is also getting more and more traction, but Facebook is a place to be. And another thing that has been very interesting is that as the country opened up, you have also the parallel evolution of the media and movie industry. And they've basically like supported each other. So as the media industry evolved, they started to produce also better content. So you didn't have music videos that looked like old karaoke songs, and you had like
Right.
very creative productions and something that were, and Myanmar people were like, wow, this is cool. I've never seen that before. And that was helping as well a lot of young acts get traction. And as well, the movie industry, as better films came into play, they started to ask their friends who were songwriters, would you write a soundtrack for me? And it helped some of this indie artists to grow their fan base.
So fascinating. Thank you for that. Okay, so this is actually really interesting. I really wanted to bring this up because, Chris, you just shared that in 2004, the local scene was still like very rarely embracing the local acts, like things that were created within Hong Kong by Hong Kong people. And what's actually interesting is that it really speaks to, even though Hong Kong has been this amazing developed place for so long, it speaks to the youth, the youngness of this music market that we share here in the Asia, Southeast Asia, Pacific region, right? I know inside the Philippines, Joff, there was a movement called OPM, Original Pinoy Music, in the early 2000s, where it was the same concept that Elodie and I face, where music, as we had experienced it here inside the Golden Triangle, Myanmar, well, not Thailand because they never got colonized, but Myanmar and Cambodia, they were, really just kind of subsisting on this diet of copied music, whether it was Thai country songs or some hit from Europe or Japan or Korea, where you just dub it over with Khmer and put some cheesy synthesizers, and people are like, yeah, that's music. I'll take it. Cool. I just want to drink and have a good time. But then it emerges this scene where people are fighting for like, no, like we can make original music. This is what we do. Like we have to take pride because also we come from such legacies of artists. It's not like art just appeared in the last 20 years. It's just like certain, geopolitical factors came into this as to why we ended up being inside this place where original music was not being pushed, like the sort of local consumption. So I wanted to ask you guys about that, your perspective, because I guess for me, the shocking part was to hear that it was in 2004 for Hong Kong. Really
No,
deciding to
it was it was earlier. It was sorry, it was it was earlier. That's just when I started because I think that I really heard what you said about that. They just take pop songs from the West and put Cantonese lyrics on it, right? That was the 80s
Right.
and early 90s. But I think independent original music started coming out in the 90s, even the 80s, but 90s
Sure.
was when indie bands started. I started organizing in 2004. I'd been in a band in the 90s, and there was, so I just wanted to clarify that in case
Right.
anyone's
Sure.
watching
Sure.
going,
Sure.
Crispy's wrong.
Fact check alert. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Fake
I think
news.
yeah, I just think it's a fascinating thing that I would love to talk to you guys about. So, can you just, I want to start, let's go backwards this time, start with Elodie. In terms of, watching that understanding from the market change in terms of how they're consuming music and how sophisticated they are, how much they're demanding of the local artists to like, push the level or get to somewhere new. How would you assess where Myanmar is at right now? Has the local scene become very sophisticated? Is there a high consumption across popular culture? Or is it still in a place where it's like mainly the city is taking a lot of the new music and the rest of the country is still, taking copied songs?
Yeah, it's still quite new. Actually, copy songs are less and less happening. So this is definitely way more original music, but people are usually the most of the people would go for what they know. It's they would go always for the same bands or old bands, like all these oldies are their big fans. For young emerging artists, it's not always easy to really like penetrate this market. But the cities, especially like Yangon, is a very cultural and city where you have, especially the millennials and Gen Z are very like tech savvy. They're very interested in finding new stuff. So they've been really pushing the scene to just go towards new stuff. And it's, so you had an independent scene growing, like more indie rock, more like chill pop. All of these things are getting very popular. For example, in Thailand, are just reaching out the country, and they some of them are getting big right away, but mainly in the cities actually. Like if you look at also it's a country that is mostly rural, and most of the people will just listen to their big rock band that they love, or actually hip hop is really big too here, but they will not go into stuff that they don't know that well. But if you have like some other medium like TV that would help bring those new acts, they will, it's like sources that they trust, and this is how new acts can really get more famous throughout the nation.
Was there some form of a in a way by the music scene some sort of public addressing of this, like saying we have to get away from copy music, we must take pride in our own music? Was there like a sort of kind of conversation like that happening inside the scene in Myanmar after 2014?
Actually, I think it happened a little bit before, but yeah, within the music scene, not very public, but a lot of them were making a statement from, they're like, I don't want to do this. I really want, even if it means I'm not going to be famous, I want to do my own songs and really promote my own voice. And this is where, yeah, a lot of these people were these guys putting this shows, and a lot of them were going into like, yeah, more underground punk or hip hop, and there's a really big subculture like this there that is really interesting.
Got it. Great. So, Jav, I guess that you've had so many different experiences. You were in the Philippines, Singapore, you're in Hanoi. So, I guess I would love to ask you about your experience between the two. Let's say the Philippines and inside Hanoi, in terms of like the newer adoption of original music and people taking pride in that and trying to listen within their local scenes. What have you seen as in terms of the difference between the two? Was there different kind of cultural elements that went into play in terms of people having a nationalistic fervor of saying like we got to listen to our own music? How have you seen that evolve in those two different markets?
Yeah. Well, I think Vietnam is more nationalistic because of the language. Everyone speaks Vietnamese. Most of the music consumes in Vietnamese, whereas the Philippines it's a bilingual, even trilingual country, depending where you grew
Right.
up. So, and it was a colony of the U.S. So there's so much Western music on all over the radios, in the stores. The Philippines is very westernized in terms of the music scene. So that's the biggest difference for sure. The language.
Right.
Also, the Philippines has a history of like live music, has a longer history, I think, and there are more international bands play in the Philippines compared to
Right.
Vietnam. So yeah,
Right.
very
Right.
very different. Like the music
Fascinating.
charts are probably really different from each other.
So, in terms of like the consumption within the country, would you say it's more majority? Speaking about the Philippines, would you say it's more majority Filipino Tagalog music, or is it more Western consumption?
Ooh, I don't have the numbers, but I'm thinking it's more Western, perhaps. You turn on the radio, and it's mostly Western music playing. I remember maybe about 8 years ago or 9 years ago, I think a law was passed saying that radio stations had to play a local song every, like, I think 1 in 4 songs played on the
Wow.
radio had to be local. They had to pass
Wow.
that law. So yeah, you
Wow.
can imagine how much Western music they were getting.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
We were
That's
getting.
fascinating. I'd be really curious to see the analytics on that in terms of how things have changed in terms of you know, seeking within, because now we're sort of democratized through YouTube, TikTok,
Yeah,
Spotify, and it's kind of strange. Like when we had television was like the central consumption pattern for the entire world. We were all kind of like sitting at the altar of TV, like waiting for the show to come on, right? But now we just bring these screens. Like even right now, what do I have? I have this laptop screen. I have a second screen up top above me. I have my phone. I have this, and I can listen. I have a set of headphones that can input 2 Bluetooth devices and listen to 2 different things at the same time. I don't know why I'd want to do that, but I could, because the power is in my hands of technology, you know? But it's so strange. It's such a strange thing that we are separated away from that. And in terms of us being able to consume within our own country, as saying, how much of the visibility can we have of how people's patterns have changed, other than say YouTube, Facebook, people who are looking at it from a really high level, sort of the data science behind all of this. So that is really interesting. I would love to learn more about that. I'm going to move to Chris. Now, Chris, you said in the 80s, 90s, it all changed. And then 2004, the underground HK started. I really am curious as to how far along has the local Hong Kong scene been? Is there any elements of like public support for like, we must support Hong Kong bands and, Cantonese music? Is there sort of like similar things with laws saying, get that Western music, we can have it, but we have to have at least like 2 songs every 5 or something like that? Has there been a movement like that in Hong Kong?
No, there hasn't. I would say we have Chinese and English radio stations, right? So the English one would play English songs and the Chinese ones play Chinese. So there's never been that issue. But I do think it's been like up and down. I think the indie market, the indie scene in Hong Kong was really quite strong in the 90s, right? This was post Beyond, the biggest band ever in Hong Kong that seemed to do a reunion show every couple of years. But there you go. It's great, yes. And it's interesting, when I was listening to Elodie talking about TV, I was thinking, oh, nobody really uses TV here except, like watching local channels. I mean, people still do, of course, but it's not like how you were talking about how people, you would really stay to watch a TV show or catch something happening, music concert or something. Now we rely on our, technology to do it. And we're still very lucky that we can do it in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong's slowly being absorbed into the Greater Bay Area, and is a part of China, right? And so and we've had new laws here, so people aren't as free as they were with lyrics, right? So in some ways, it's almost like we're going opposite, going backward. Yeah. So it also means people have to be more creative in their lyric writing and in their, metaphors, I think. Maybe it will push creativity further, because people who are creative and want to write songs and express themselves will need to do that, right? Whereas before they could just say, be very direct about who they didn't like and what they didn't like. Now you can't be. So I think it's some people may think it's down. A lot of people have gone. A lot of people have left Hong Kong for the UK. I as a promoter now, still, because we had live music banned for nearly a year here, so there was no live music allowed. So, in fact, a shoot is that I ended up, I'm helping to set up a charity to look after musicians, because there isn't one in Hong Kong just for the musicians. But now the government have put in so many laws that the musicians have to be vaccinated, they have to wear a mask, there has to be a screen between them and the audience, there has to be blah 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 meters between. There's a lot of rules and a lot of rule breaking as well.
Sure.
but it's hard to manage that, and there's still lots of types like Rock and Flap is not happening because the government won't allow F&B at a concert, and if you're a festival, F&B is where you make your money, right? So but at the same time, what we're seeing is people are craving live music. People are really enjoying it, and finally they're giving local bands a chance, because there are no international bands, right? So they want live music, so they're going to check out local bands and going, oh, this is really good. Which is nice, but it's unfortunate something like a pandemic would cause this, and government regulation. But anyway, as I propose now, because some people aren't vaccinated or they don't want to use the government app for various reasons. So it's much harder as a promoter to book a variety of bands. It seems to be at the moment a lot of the same bands playing over and over again, which is okay. They're getting better and better, right? But it's now we have different problems during COVID. Yeah, but at least we have live music. So, but it was interesting. The TV. I don't think people would really use the TV. I mean, but people still do. But they generally are more mature audiences. That's what I meant by this. More mature
Sure, that's
audiences.
absolutely true.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
It's on in the
right.
background. Yeah.
Yeah,
I actually,
because young people will go, I saw this on Instagram, right? I just saw this. This looks really
right,
cool, right? This sounds
right,
cool. And
right.
people are more willing to see it on their phone than than a screen telling them what they should be listening to.
Right,
So
right,
anyway,
right.
I waffled
Actually,
on a bit.
can I
Yeah, go.
Yeah,
can
go
I
ahead.
Yeah,
jump
Yeah.
yeah,
on
yeah,
this?
yeah. Please
Actually,
do.
this is also what I'm actually TV. I was more talking about the entities and the companies, because it's true. It's the
Mm-mm.
same here. Everyone is on their phone. It's mostly like older generation who would be in front of TV, but they are the one putting like big productions, or like putting all the stage, inviting all the artists, creating all these shows because they are the one with always money to do it.
With the
But
money. Yep, yep.
Right.
Yeah. And
and
that's what they
actually,
understand, the big shows, right? They don't understand
Yes.
indie artists.
No.
So,
they were
yeah.
actually trying to a few years back where they were putting this like talk show about music, inviting famous artists, but asking them to bring in one of the new act that they love to come and play with them on the
Oh,
show. So it was pretty cool.
cool. How did that do?
Oh, that's cool.
Did it have
Yeah, did
take
that
up?
do well?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I don't have the numbers on. I don't really know how famous those independent bands who went really liked it. And to be honest, also a lot of the bands were invited. A lot of bands were invited, but a lot of them refused to do it
Mm.
because it
Oh.
is always the big battle mainstream underground. Like I'm too cool
Ah,
for it.
I see. I
But
see.
Interesting.
yeah.
That is
But there
fascinating.
was
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to jump on one of your comment, and I think this is exactly what Myanmar is going through. Is like as things are changing, as a lot of you know, like Myanmar is in great turmoil at the moment. A lot of things are very difficult for most of them. So they have a big history for songwriters, how they were criticizing a lot of things, but in such a poetic and subtle way that the government had no clue about it. And now they have all this young generation who experience all this freedom have
Mm.
to also adapt and find new ways. And it's pretty good, actually. A lot of musicians have been fighting for their freedom through music. Actually, there's a
Wow.
really cool album dropping in 2 days, I think, from this collective called Rap Against the Junta. And it's, if you
Oh,
can check it out,
whoa.
it's
Whoa. Okay, that
We're
sounds.
signing off now.
and this one
Be trouble
actually is
coming.
not subtle at all.
Yeah, no, no.
Yeah, because the junta, I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
Um, so
Wow.
yeah,
I mean,
this is also
Excellent.
that is
if
important.
I might swear, I'm just gonna call that's hip hop as fuck.
Yes,
that is
I'll
it's
send
rebel
you.
Yeah, it
music.
is.
There's rebel music. I love that so much, and it's so meaningful. And actually, I want to progress this conversation forward because I think this is really interesting. So obviously, in the audience, we have a lot of Singaporean artists. Artists who are curious about how can they get out, how can they grow. I know Singapore maintains this specifically as a person who lived there for half a year and got to meet a lot of people. It is an insular island. It is 5 million people. Maybe what is it? 2/5 of it are migrant workers, and three-fifths of it are the Singaporean residents themselves. And it is a small, big market. It's a big, small city
Mm.
with a small, big city mindset. I don't really understand. I don't know. It's such a fascinating place to me. But I think there are a lot of audience inside this crowd. So what's really cool about this particular panel is that we have a half and half. I think me and Elodie are more on the pushing side, meaning we have artists that we counsel. I have an artist. I run a label myself. We're pushing artists and trying to break into emerging art markets, right? Whereas Joff and Chris, you guys are more intaking, your bookers, your promoters, you're bringing in people. You are the ones, I don't want to call you gatekeepers, but you're the ones who are able to, hook somebody up with a great show that might be able to open up to huge audiences, build networks, things like that. And I think for our region specifically, the Asia Pacific region, this idea of, okay, ASEAN, I'm going to throw in Hong Kong in there because you guys are close by. ASEAN, if you put it all together, is like the 7th largest economy in the world. And once we open up all of this, intra-trade and cultural exchange, we become an entity, rivaling the European Union and things like that, right? So this sort of conversation is very nice to hear from the outset, from a long ways away, whether it be a Singaporean artist who sings in English, who can make a pop indie hit that hits inside Thailand and Manila and have like a little tour around the region. But also fascinating for an artist like my artists who are Cambodian, who've never even got out of the country once, who are just like, I really hope somebody likes my music, and my dream would be to just get flown out to some place and get taken care of and do a show on a big stage. Doesn't have to be 50,000 people. It could be 2,000. As long as I'm out of the country, my dream is made. And then I'll make a new dream after that, right? So what's fascinating about our particular struggle is what unifies us. Like, what are the things that unify this region other than our geographic location? There are things, there are challenges like language. There are challenges, geopolitical challenges. There are challenges like culture. There are challenges like music taste. How evolved is a region or a country, and how are they able to receive and act? Like, for example, if I were to have an electronic DJ come out here and he's a real deep grime DJ from the UK, and he comes to do a show in Cambodia, I don't think he'd have the same kind of intake that, say, in Hong Kong he might get, or in Bangkok in some grimy club where people really love that kind of music. So what's interesting for us to kind of like try and delve into is how can we tackle emerging markets within our region? So I want to start with the booker side. In terms of when it comes to booking acts that are able to be received and have an audience play inside Hanoi or Manila or inside Hong Kong, what do you guys factor in other than of course they have the Instagram numbers, the different kind of followers that they have? What sort of qualities inside these artists are you looking for in terms of booking them? Let's start with Chris.
Maybe ease of booking them. A nice manager. If that's not an oxymoron, but yeah, no. I mean, I had kind of I've done shows for like sort of punk bands that were big in the 70s. We did like The Damned. I did Sham 69. Like they were, like that, and that targets a totally expat market of people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? That's really clear. But when it comes to bands, and usually I don't seek. I hear they come to me going, "Hey, we'd like to play Hong Kong." Then we start talking, and I try and see what style they are. Then I ask around. I have to do market research. I still prefer word of mouth because most of my friends are musicians. Funny that, right? So I ask around and ask them to ask their friends and just see what people say and come back. If I feel like the price is okay, we can do it. But if the manager is like, sometimes I don't know, maybe they think Hong Kong, whoa, big city, loads of money, I don't know. And I'm like, no. And plus I don't know about your countries you're in, but we had issues, and we still do, where we have either very small venues, maybe one middle-sized venue. And small venues, I'm saying 100 to 200. Right. We don't really have anything 500. Then it kind of goes up from 1,500. So sometimes I think, for 150 people, this is going to be a really expensive show, right? And you have to take a big risk to do the 1,000 ones, right? Because you don't know. Because it always works better if they come back again. But a lot of people don't come back again, right? They count that first experience as that's it. And it's really hard because the second show is usually better than the first one in terms of profit. That's all for everyone, because people will go, "Oh, I went to that show. That was really good. You should come. You should go watch them." You have all the audience from the first show promoting the show, but that first time, if you're bringing someone kind of unknown, you're selling it on the back of the right support band, the right people in the scene liking this kind of music. Yeah. It's because you have to work with other people. Don't you agree, Josh? You can't just do it on your own when you promote. You need your media partners. You need I think they have fancy names for them now, right? KOLs, right? You need your people who have influence.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they didn't
Speaking
call
the
them that
language.
before.
Yeah.
They were just like partners, or but it's cool. Yeah. So I think it's still, yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to when we open up again, as you say. When you were describing it, I was like, oh yeah, pre-COVID, right?
Mm,
It was really fun to build up these shows with great acts, and
mm.
like, hopefully be a part of their rise, to fame. Yeah. I just
Right.
realized I moved my hands a lot. I'm sorry. It's really
It's great.
disconcerting.
Mid expressions. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that is
So,
fascinating. I guess I never
yeah.
considered, because, I've been to Hong Kong a few times, and I just look at Hong Kong like, I don't look like this. I look like this. Like, oh, what the fuck? And
Yeah,
then you go to
yeah.
Macau, and you're like, what the fuck? What is this place? Like, so there is no 500, because obviously space is hard to get, and getting a property in the city where you would want a 500-person venue, super expensive. Lots of lots of people with legacy are not going to leave that space. So there's like nothing outside of town. There's nothing like near like the outskirts, near like the park areas. Nobody's building outwardly to build these kind of music
Not
venues out
not
there.
not big ones. There's small independent venues, like you say,
Sure.
and we've had that issue with factory, you know, spaces that are supposed to be for factories, but someone's turned it into a live music venue, and that's actually
Right.
illegal.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because there's safety laws and health laws and all this. So yeah,
Kind of
so
important. Kind of important. Fire
yeah,
exit here and
and
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you do have, and like Elodie said, you do get people organizing their own shows. But I guess
Mhm.
the underground is, I'm a bit persistent, and I like it. I enjoy it, right? I think some people get a bit drained by it, especially if you're playing in a band, then you organize a show and you play the show, then you promote the show. It's actually quite draining. I mean, it's a
Mm.
lot of work, right?
Sure.
It's much nicer when someone else does it when you're in the band.
Right, right.
Like,
So I wanna
yeah.
latch on back to that first thing you mentioned though, because then this element of having, if you're trying to get to another city like Hong Kong, having a plan of not just doing say one venue, but looking to do hit piece to piece to piece, and then the promoters are already talking to each other, working in a way together to help make that happen because they want you to come do the show inside the city, and obviously you're going to be splitting the competition by going to different venues, and different people go to different venues. But it overall helps it helps in the long run for the artist and manager to have that sort of mentally prepared already and have maybe made contacts. Would you say that a good piece of advice then for those kind of artists and their managers would be, obviously networking is such a huge thing, but in terms of that, would it be approaching you and saying, hey, I really want to approach these different venues, and I think that it would be good if I hit this one, this one, this one. Do you have a relationship with them already? Would that be a good kind of question you would want to receive as a booker?
Oh, I don't think, have I ever been asked that? No, most of the time, in fact, almost all the time, they want me to do everything, right?
Oh,
They
right.
want me to,
Yeah.
yeah, book the tour. And I don't think, actually, I think it was a Singaporean guy who was, what's his name? Charles J. Tan. I don't think he's got a different name now. I don't know, but he came many years ago, and he was keen on doing this, and I thought, wow, great, off you go, like.
Mm,
But most people, they're so busy doing, and I always think that's quite ambitious. They're so busy trying to do an Asian tour, right? They're trying
mm,
to match their Singapore, and I'm like, but I get it. If they're flying from Europe or US, it is a long way away. So why you can't just come to Hong Kong? But they've got so many pieces of the puzzle that they can't actually look at the facts in each. They're just looking at the big picture. Is that the tour
mm.
poster? We're playing all
Right,
these cities, but
right.
yeah, it's and I can see it's a lot of work. I think even when I see the international bands, right, the more successful bands, they have
Right.
a touring manager, someone who manages just those bits and pieces. How you get
Mm,
from A to B, and when I start telling them, oh, because I did everything um, at the beginning. No, wait, let's not talk about the beginning. But I'm before COVID, I was pretty legit, right? I would get visas. I would make sure they were playing in venues that you can perform in and everything, because I figured if anything happens, I get the blame. They don't get the blame. I get the blame,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
they just go, I don't know. Chris B said it was okay, right? So some people didn't want to do that. They were like, oh no, I'll just come as a visitor. And I'm like, but I get into trouble if I put on a show and you're performing illegally, right? So I'm a
Right.
little bit
Right.
of a stickler, because I thought, well, why not? Like, and it's easier to work with people who are willing to just do it legit. And I said, and that way I can promote it without fear. Yeah, I can have peace of mind and everything. But it's interesting. But some people are very, very underground, right?
Right.
Like, no,
Right.
we're coming as visitors. We're gonna do this, and I'm like, yeah, okay, bye. Um, but it's okay if they want to do that. It's just really hard to. I think it's really
Right.
hard to do it like that.
So I guess then I'm going to stick with
And I
you,
think
Chris,
it'd
because
be.
I'm
Oh God, sorry, I'm
I'm
talking
really
so
I'm really
much.
fascinated with this though, because then would you then recommend? So say for example, I don't want to be biased, but I'm a little biased. I love this band, Joff, Tiny Giant from Hanoi. They are
Hmm.
so
Okay,
fucking cool.
you'll
They
have
are
to
so
send me the
fucking
They're
link.
cool.
so good.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Can do. They performed, and they're this amazing duo. So would you then recommend? Because they're a bit smaller. They're not that big international touring act yet. I can easily see them in festivals around the world. I'll predict it, and when everything comes back, they're gonna have a good time because they're awesome.
Cool.
Would you then recommend for somebody in that position, like from Hanoi or Singapore or Malaysia, would you recommend to them then, if they're going to come to Hong Kong, to look for multiple venues to perform and to try and like create and like stick around for a bit? Do you think that would be more effective for them as like trying to grow their
I,
market rather than trying to
I
bounce
think so.
city to city?
Yeah, I think they should go to each place for like at least 2 weeks, make a music video, connect to
Mm,
some of the people who come to the shows. I mean, these are the people who are going to be trumpeting and promoting your band and your music.
right,
I think you actually
right.
need to spend time connecting to people and doing stuff
Mm,
and going, and going to other gigs. I think that
mm,
way the internet is great. Everything social media is great, but it's also very cold, right? And
mm,
people
mm.
still want to feel. People are so excited when they go. I met the singer of that band when they came to Hong Kong. Oh
Yeah,
my God, right? And they're the
yeah,
ones that will be like your rabid fan. They're called, right?
yeah,
You still need those people, and so you need to play live. And you need to be, you don't just play and then you disappear.
hmm,
you know,
Unless it's a
uh,
huge
Yeah.
festival.
yeah, but still, you can still go out. If you saw some people dancing at your set, you can go out and go,
Yeah.
hey man, that was really cool. Do you want a t-shirt? I saw you liked my band. Do you want a t-shirt? Yeah, let's take a photo together. I'll put it on my Instagram. I mean, you can
yeah,
do anything to create a connection so people afterwards go, oh, that band was really cool. The singer said this to me. Singer liked my trousers. I mean, do you know what I mean? I think you still
There's a
need that
connection.
connection. Yeah,
that
you need
I
to
think
connection.
spend time on it, because if I've noticed the bands that stay, talk to the members of the audience, they do really well, especially when they come back, because people feel something. They help promote that gig, right?
Mm,
They become part of your promotional team without them knowing it, right? So,
mm,
but
right.
not every artist is willing to do that. Not all of them are actually outgoing, right? So I think yeah, but that's just my point of view. Yeah. So
Sure. So, Job,
Yeah.
can you want to add on to that? Like, what are your
Yeah.
experience promoting to these different places?
Yeah, if I would recommend they do well, what Chris said, like spend as much time if you can, play as many shows as you can, or try to get the big festival. Um, do the one big one or a couple small ones.
Mm,
If it's within your budget, if you can, yeah,
right,
definitely.
right. So,
Um,
so then back to the original question then about when you're intaking bands, other than their numbers and other than obviously they have a following and my data points say I have 2,200 fans in Hanoi, that kind of thing. Beyond that, when it comes to you booking acts for trying to get local consumption and also even perhaps the expat crowd, um, what kind of factors, what kind of things are you factoring in terms of trying to bring in people who are going to add to your festival or your booking?
to be honest, it's just the bands. It's like depends on if I like the band's music or not. So I operate mainly within the expat scene here, um, in the north of Vietnam. I live in an expat sort of neighborhood in the north, and there are only about two or three live music venues. So there's not a lot of competition. If I put on a show and say there's three bands, one band from the Philippines, one band from Thailand, one from Hong Kong, and a couple local bands, that might be like the most interesting show that night,
Right.
because there's not a lot of
Right.
competition at the moment,
Right.
right?
Right.
There are
Right.
no big international names coming in, so
Yeah.
it's whoever I like. People are going to come. I'm pretty confident in
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Also, like whoever's touring the region, if that's I just choose if this band's coming, doing a tour in Asia, I'll hit them up. And usually a lot of Western bands like to play in Vietnam because it's not usually part of the tour, Asia tour. It's like a novelty for a lot of bands, and they'll take a cut in their pay. So
Right.
I'm kind of I've been lucky in that sense the last 5 years. Yeah, like a lot
Right.
of the Western bands that played here they just took a cut, and it was
Yeah.
just easy
And
financially.
then would you say also, within you and other promoters, is there like a WhatsApp or a Telegram group where you're all connected and be like, hey, this guy or
Yeah,
this
yeah.
lady's
I
coming,
guess.
this band. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There used to be. There's some promoters would say, "Hey, this band's coming. Why don't you put an offer down?" Yeah, will tell each other. Yeah,
That's
that
cool.
definitely happens. There's no like
Cool.
official WhatsApp group or
Right.
anything,
Right.
but like
A
um,
Discord.
I remember one of my friends. Yeah, he called it like the promoter bros of Asia. He came up with that.
Oh,
It never
wow.
happened, never materialized. But yeah, back back in the mid 2000s, I remember making a point to visit promoters every time I traveled. If I went to Singapore or Korea or Hong Kong, I made it a point to physically meet people because I don't
Hmm.
think there was really Facebook back then.
Right.
We had MySpace, and that's how I was meeting promoters back in the
Right.
day. But
Wow.
now we have like
MySpace.
panels. Yeah, we have panels now. We have meetings. We have like yeah. What do you call them? Those festivals where you just networking festivals. Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah, we didn't have that back in
Fascinating.
the day.
So
Yeah,
we have 2 minutes left. See what I told you guys earlier? This thing gets away from you, man. It's
Wow.
so I feel like
Wow.
we
Yeah.
just got started. We just got to like the heat. But I really wanted to, focus those last questions for the, artists who are watching this right now. I think the advice to gather from it is everybody's talking. Be careful who you Yeah, be careful. Say be careful. Like don't be an asshole. Have a nice manager. Make nice with people. Promoters know each other. Work within the networks. Endear yourself. Things like that. Elodie, I guess to finish it out. So you've been giving advice to bands in Myanmar, different kind of music acts, things like that. In terms of like that aspect of trying to build out their music, for local consumption, also versus towards international consumption. What sorts of pieces of advice have you been giving out? What would you recommend to them, especially in light of what we just heard from Joff and Chris, in terms of trying to grow within the emerging market of the Asia Pacific region?
Yeah, actually, at the moment, a lot of the acts are just like trying to grow in Myanmar. So this is already not always an easy task. You have to focus on you sing in Burmese and all of this, and it's not always to get out when you sing in your own language. But I think one of the most important advice I'm giving at the moment for people who want to get out of Myanmar is also be out there. You need it's all about human connection. So you need to really get out there, try to meet people, connect as well with other bands. Be curious about if you're interested in different markets, be curious about them. Do your research. We have all the tools we need. You can find all the bands playing. You can find the genres that people like. You can find the venues where you can play. It's all at your hands. So you just have to do that, but as well, be ready to be professional. Have your photos, your APK, have all of this ready and be ready to negotiate all these things that are not fun as a musician, where you just want to play and just release your music. You have to do that, but at the same time, if you embrace this and embrace being independent, and it's really exciting. You can grow a lot. There's a lot of challenges, but out of this, you become your own little entrepreneur, and you have your future in your own hands.
Amazing.
Wow,
amazing.
that's great. That's really
Love
great.
that.
I like that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
I
Yes.
just thought of an idea.
Go ahead, Joff. Yeah, what's up?
Since everyone
Yeah.
speaks different languages all over ASEAN, maybe make music with no lyrics, like EDM. Like everybody
There you
can relate to music with no lyrics.
This is why it's so big everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
So yeah,
I think
I will.
it's great how you tell them to do an EPK, because I remember once someone emailed
God,
me,
yes.
like they said, hi, my band would like to play at the Underground. This is our band name, and you can find us on YouTube.
No.
Not even a little.
Delete.
So annoying. Dude. So I run a pretty hot label here in Cambodia, and then I get emails sometimes like, "Hi, how do I join Barame?" I'm like, "No, that's not how you do it. You gotta send me EPK, photos, links, videos. Now I have 5 minutes on my coffee break. That's all I have for you. You deliver.
had a lot
Get
of
your
this in
EPKs together,
Myanmar.
guys. Yes, so you have to get it together." But you never know what might happen, have it in a Dropbox file. So you're like sitting next to somebody at a cafe, you can just send it off like that. Ease of access,
Like
you
that.
never know who you might meet. It's like having the
Yeah, be
headshot in
prepared.
the trunk of your car. You just got to have it ready.
Yeah.
And now we have that power. So I must wrap it up. Again, I'm just kind of like, damn it, we just got started. There's so many other questions we could have gone into, but I have the WhatsApp telling me, hey, wrap up. There's no like smiley face saying like wrap up. It's just like,
okay.
wrap up. So I want to thank everybody here, Elodie, Chris, Joff, an awesome conversation. To all the people in the audience, this is just the first of many panels. Please return back tomorrow. Follow the links. Go to Scape. Look for all the different discussions. There's so many different things happening with Scape. Definitely keep it up. It'll be here all week from the 18th to the 23rd. To my panelists, thank you guys so much for joining me. We appreciate you guys being here, having this, COVID-19 Zoom conversation, getting to know you guys, getting to hang out and learn so much about each other. And I hope to meet you guys one day. To everybody in the audience, thank you guys so much. Have a nice day and stay safe.
Woo. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
I can't sleep tonight, waiting for you to make me alright. So now I wait till I see the sea.
Love undercover, it's the final hour.
Yeah, we go way back, let me remind you. Every time I think I'm growing up,
And then she ran to take my hand underneath the moonlight.
Every time I think I'm growing up.
And then she ran to take my hand underneath the moonlight.
Welcome to the Scape Music Day Out pre-event livestream, where we feature performances, interviews, and talks with local artists and industry players in the music scene. Music Day Out, the annual event organized by Scape, is back to celebrate the local indie music community. Returning for its third year in a hybrid format, MDO is a festival that supports and recognizes youths in Singapore's culture through curated programs and showcases to support homegrown artists. The festival encompasses performances from a stellar lineup of youth music talents and panel discussions with regional industry professionals. Music Day Out is happening on the 18th to 23rd of October in various venues around Scape. Visit Scape website or follow their social media for updates. Register your interest soon, as slots are limited. Hello, everyone. My name is Priya, and I am the founder of Gig Life Pro. Gig Life Pro is a platform for everybody in the music industry, from musicians to experts who want to connect, learn, and build in Asia Pacific. Today, I'm here joined by Edwin and Peng Sing and Eddie to talk about, what are we here to talk about? Localizing global developments. Basically, this is all about music industry news, how to find it, why it's relevant, and what exactly we should be looking out for. So to kick things off, I would love for each of you guys to briefly explain to everybody what it is that you do and share a little fun fact about yourself. So I am going to start with Edwin.
Esmond. Oh.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Esmond. I am the founder of a PR and a marketing company called Secret Signals. So we market and we publicize independent and major label independent artists in Southeast Asia. And on the side, I also run a distribution business for streetwear. One fact about myself is I used to be a yo-yo demonstrator.
That is so cool. My name is
Very
Peng Sing. I'm the founder of an indie label called Where Are the Fruits? And we work with a lot of Singaporean artists, and we put out lots of great music. And I also play in a band called Mild Life. So born and bred local music, indie music, and really great to be here today. Fun fact would be, I actually have an academic background. So before I pursued music full-time, I was teaching in the NUS Sociology department for a couple years. And yeah, you know, sometimes students notice me and they're like, "Hey, do you play in a band or something?" Yeah, so it's quite
awesome.
funny.
Hi, I'm Eddie. I'm the regional director for Hip Hop DX Asia. We are a news and media platform that covers exclusively Asian hip hop, Asian hip hop music, culture, news, all that sort of thing, right? Yeah, I'm very happy that we're only about just over 6 months old, and we've grown to about 350,000 followers across the social media, so that's pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Fun fact, I've got a friend who looks exactly like player 456 from Squid Games. He looks so like, Esmond knows him.
Wow.
But, shout out Wing Ming, shout out Lee Jung Jae.
What is he gonna be for Halloween,
I
I
find
wonder?
him on Spotify. Artist called Love Me Butch.
Awesome. All right, so to kick things off, let's start sort of with the basics. Where can people find out about music industry news? Like, are there podcasts or websites or people or platforms that you go to? Maybe, Eddie, if would you like to start?
Sure. I suppose a lot of the good online publications is a good place to start. Like Music Business Worldwide is something that I check in. Billboard is great. Even Rolling Stone would be. It really depends on what you're interested in, right? But even for social media, like on Instagram, there's an account I like called Industry Folks. That's pretty, just pretty bite-sized, and that's pretty cool. So it's out there. The news is out there. You just got to know where to look, I suppose. Right?
Yeah, I think from a label perspective, I really like Music Ally or Music Ally. I usually go to Music Ally for like the marketing stuff, because they would do marketing rundowns, like the big campaigns that happened in the past year and stuff like that. And I just go there to get ideas, get inspired. Yeah.
I straddle my time between like music and lifestyle stuff. So I do like to check out High Snobiety, Hype Beast, even general publications like Esquire and all that work for me as well. There's another newsletter that Ping Seng actually introduced to me quite a while ago called Water and Music.
Oh, yeah.
What's it called?
Water and Music.
Water and Music.
So
Tell us more about this one.
you want to explain?
I'm not paid. I don't even know who Sherry who is, but I'm just like such a huge fan of. They started out as a mailing list, and then now they have a Discord group and they have a Patreon, and it's somehow this really interesting mix of music industry and tech people, and they all congregate in one place. And the kinds of discussions that they have are super on point. Yeah, Water and Music, big fan. So
Nice.
Check it out.
Yeah, you mentioned Discord as well. So I feel like Discord is becoming an increasingly popular channel for finding out not just about music news, but sort of any news. But have you guys found some good groups on Discord or even Clubhouse that talk about music news?
I have not used Discord very much, but it's something I would need to get into, because everybody keeps telling me I'm really missing out. Clubhouse, I think it was really great for a while, and I'm not sure whether it's just me, but it seemed to have kind of
tapered down a bit, right?
right. Like, I mean, for us here in Asia, I know it's very active still in like the States and elsewhere, right?
My kids use Discord for like interest group discussions and like, because my daughter was homeschooled, so she has her homeschool academy discussions on Discord. But I actually have not been much. I haven't explored music on Discord at all. Yeah, but I think any platform like that that engages community and small interest group, you can find a lot of things, a lot of thoughts and opinions about music and discoveries as well. I mean, I'm 40 right now, and I don't know if you remember IRC.
Yo.
Yeah. So
ASL, man.
Yes.
I discovered a lot of stuff on IRC. So I think it's the same thing or similar. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I guess, like you mentioned, there's a lot of different places and there's so much news out there. So is it important for everybody in the music industry to learn more about what's happening and current trends, et cetera? Like, should artists know about what's happening in the music industry, in your opinion? Heng Sing?
I mean,
You kind of straddle both worlds as the artist and the label manager. So,
Yeah.
With your artist hat on, are there certain types of news that you look at a bit differently maybe than with your label hat on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think artists are really part of the music industry. Like, conventionally or traditionally, sometimes you would some performers and musicians or songwriters will see themselves as like, oh, I'm like artists. So at conferences, I hang out with all the other artists, and if there's like a very industry heavy panel, so I'll leave that to the manager. I'll leave that to my label or like the more businessy people to go there and talk and network, right? But really, you are part of the industry as well, and you, as the artist, you need to know people too, right? And you need to know how all these different parts of the industry work. Otherwise, you find yourself wanting to just like pigeonhole yourself in like in a little niche or whatever. But really, the industry is huge. There's so much work, and you know, I think the current situation right now with COVID, so many people are just wearing multiple hats, right? It's difficult to just be like, I'm gonna play the guitar and only the guitar. Yeah.
Yes, very, very valid points. And I mean, you work with media a lot, so you obviously, you know, are familiar with a bunch of brands, Edwin, and a bunch of media brands and whatnot. But do you feel like as a publicist or publicity company that there are certain types of industry news that you like to look out for?
Yeah, definitely. Because we're publicists, right? We always need to look out for new ways of communication, new ways of reaching audience, communities, and every now and then there's something new popping up. I remember when Clubhouse first started up, I was telling the team, yo, we should just start a Clubhouse channel. And I think we maybe got down to 1 or 2 sessions, and we joined quite a lot of groups. I know Audrey, my colleague, did that as well. So for us, we're always looking for new and better ways to get our music that we're working on delivered to the right audiences.
Discord, man.
I know, right? That's going to be the next.
Fan? You're a big
It's number one on my list of
I'm
platform
on like
to explore. 100%.
More than 30 different Discord channels.
Wow.
You are. You're going to be You're going to be the next person that I tap into. Then.
Yeah, it's like it's one of the programs that it's on startup. So the moment I switch on my computer, like Discord is there, and the notifications are going crazy, and it doesn't help because I get distracted really easily. So I just have to like mute it sometimes.
Okay, thanks. After this, Discord 101. Me, Esmond, you.
Okay, steady.
You can do a separate discussion, just workshop, Discord workshop.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and there are some really big musicians and artists Discord groups, and it's made up of like musicians, the music communities, and also fans. Right, there's like easily 3,000 people in one group. So one of the things that I notice when I participate a lot is sometimes the moderators, they create regular events within the group as well. They have like a music listening party within Discord, and there's 600 people online and tuning in. So it's really, it's not as public it's not like a big conference festival listening party kind of thing, but at least within these smaller communities and subgroups, there's so much activity, and you really reach like the underground audience, and it's also very like gamer adjacent. Because I play a lot of video games also, online games, so that's partly why like half the groups are actually gaming groups.
So can I ask you something?
Yeah.
What's the most interesting thing you've learned from one of these Discord groups?
The most interesting thing, you can really reach younger audiences. Yeah, they're like people who are, they're just still like high school, secondary school, and I mean they're just there because they're playing games with each other, playing with their friends. Like they have like a sub channels for people to play Valorant together, Dota, Overwatch, whatever. And so you have like really young people inside there, and then they have the interest groups. And you basically can just within one big Discord channel, there are like different channels, and you can explore like all kinds of very interesting stuff and meet new people. And there's a very big Singaporean Discord group actually. It's called TYC. You know the TYC guys, right? Yeah. They actually have a huge Discord channel. Like, shout out to the TYC people. Yeah.
Yeah. What do they cover on it?
And so like it's full of artists, designers, people that like are just like art hobbyists as well, and they're sharing like cool stuff. They're sharing sketches, character designs. They also have a few channels dedicated for music, so I usually just look there. Yeah, it's like pretty cool.
That's super local and super relevant.
Yeah.
Eddie, actually, I wanted to ask you because your platform obviously is focusing on the hip hop genre.
Yeah.
So do you think, depending on what genre you work in, you should be looking at different platforms to find news, or does it work that way with industry news, in your opinion?
No, I don't think so. I think if you're a music lover or if you're in the music industry, you should check out every genre that's available because you can learn from each other, right? Like it's really not that different, to be honest. And also because I guess because hip hop is so popular now, it's practically everywhere. I think it's a really good starting point if you want to learn about the music industry. It's something to really check out. A lot of amazing, innovative things are happening in the hip hop space, right? If you're it depends on the role that you carry in the company. Maybe you might want to look at different things, but for genres, nah, you should just look at them all.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, we talk about like genres and like specialized areas. So hip hop has done really, really exciting and things, especially like in the NFT space, which also electronic music has done a lot from. And I feel like those two worlds are kind of learning a little bit more from each other.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about this whole NFT space? And I think maybe Peng Sing, I'm going to go to you first on this one because I feel like you have the most. I feel like you've looked this up the most of everyone here for your label and for you as an artist. So starting with where can people learn more about NFT for music?
Wow. It's I mean NFTs still quite wild west out there. A good place to start is really just understand how these like protocols and smart contracts work, right? And and you probably need to know, like, for example, like cryptocurrency and what are all the base currencies and tokens that NFTs usually are built on top of. But actually, I get my NFT fix from water and music. Sure. Yeah, I mean,
Definitely one to bookmark then.
Yeah,
Covering that as well.
There are a lot of very techie people inside that particular community. And beyond that, I follow a bunch of other people on Twitter also. Twitter is like a pretty good space to get news about NFTs and crypto because it's somehow I think it's like the community, and they're mostly in North America also. They're like very plugged into Twitter, so you just follow a few people, and suddenly you
Go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and then Twitter will recommend you, like these people, and just be like, oh damn, this person is a founder of a platform or whatever, right? And you just go down the rabbit hole. But personally, right, I am still a little bit skeptical about NFTs. But I'm really keeping an eye out for use cases. And the reason is simple. Maybe there's like a more traditional part of me which is a little bit suspicious because there's just so many dodgy kinds of like NFT drops also, where I mean, because NFTs, cryptocurrency, and please stop me if I'm going on it.
Well, I was going to suggest as well. I feel like there's an alternate to this for the music industry. If you guys haven't heard about it, there's a few different platforms. There's one that we recently covered called Record Shop, and it's kind of taking the crypto part of it, but keeping the blockchain, digital collectible element of it. And to me, that space is very, very interesting because I feel like with how streaming, nobody really owns anything anymore. Everybody just streams and borrows content. There's this kind of return back to wanting that sense of ownership. And also like for content creators to feel like they're actually selling something with a value.
Yeah. True.
But maybe that's a different one, right? I think that's actually a very interesting thing. I think NFT and digital collectible kind of go hand in hand, but there is that whole crypto element that if we kind of put that a little bit on brakes,
yeah.
So tell me about this record shop thing. Like how does that work? Like they use the blockchain, a blockchain.
Yes. So blockchain can be used for all types of uses.
Right.
Right. They don't have to be. So the payment gateway, they accept PayPal.
Right.
For example, and it's just tracking the value. So whatever you pay in exchange for that is how they track the value.
Gotcha. So you don't need to actually use cryptocurrency. You can use.
No, and you don't need to buy cryptocurrency, and you don't. And I think that is what makes it more accessible. Because I think that's the other thing is when we're looking at the news, you have to always put yourself in like how accessible is this to me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And with a lot of NFT stuff, I feel like we all kind of look at that and I'm like, I'm not ready to invest in crypto
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. So I think like this record ship thing you mentioned, it makes a lot of sense. It's taking whatever that technology has created and making it accessible to everyday people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
The-
which
the
makes it
NS
more interesting, I think.
NFT space doesn't quite have a robust ecosystem yet. I mean, right now a lot of people just collect like art and they just keep it away as digital storage. But
Yeah.
yeah, so until a universe comes out of it or a bigger ecosystem, then
Yeah.
I'll be more open to play around with it, I guess.
I I think there are some. I would. I wouldn't say that they aren't robust, but it's still very niche, right? The bigger platforms like Nifty, like I can't remember all the names are like escaping me. Let me quickly check.
Crypto.com.
Nifty Gateway, Zora, Opulus, and all these are like the more music related NFTs. I mean, basically to make the system robust, they just hedge the value of the tokens to the big cryptocurrencies or the stable coins. Yeah, but it's still a very niche thing. I feel like if you look at the music, it's just a lot of electronic stuff, EDM, a little bit of hip hop, experimental.
But I mean, it's so new. So I guess I think it's great that people are trying it out until we figure it out, right? So like this record shop thing is one. I think it's one way somebody has kind of figured that out and wanting to try something new. Because from like somebody can make a beat, put it up, beat gets ripped. Somebody else lays a verse over that. That song makes it big. Original beat, don't know what happened. You know what I mean? And you see that happen a lot. Like it's
Yeah.
right. So I'm interested in this NFT thing. I think it's like you said, it gives something back to the creator, right?
Absolutely, and forever. I
Mm.
think that's the key part of it is that it's the forever piece, right?
Yeah.
So like along every resale of whatever this item is, part of those proceeds get paid back to the original creator, which is what makes it really interesting and really like if you're talking about long-term investment in your content and your career, it's definitely something I think is something to learn about. And Clubhouse actually is one a space where people are really, I think that's what it's become mostly, is like
Is that so?
the home of everything NFT related.
Huh.
And then moving on, kind of like transitioning towards tech. So there's a lot of tech in music happening now, right? You've got all of these new DSPs launching. All NFT is tech and music as well, right? So where are the best places you guys stay up to date with your music tech learnings? Eddie?
I don't really keep up to date with music tech, to be honest. It's too technical for me. I'm not that kind of a guy. I have a friend who just he just tells me stuff, so he's my source, and
Wow.
and if it's if it's interesting, I'll look it up. But if it's not, then I'll usually go on. But yeah, I'm not really a tech kind of person.
Can intro your friend?
Yeah, I could.
I think that water and music one works well for me. I don't consume a lot of information because I don't think I can handle too much at one go. But if I need bite-sized commentary, and it's actually nicely fed into my mailbox, so it's actually nicely summarized. It goes straight into details on certain things and it's categorized as well. So that's only one place I look for music
Nice.
test
So
stuff.
what kind of music tech do they cover on that? And like what do they talk about it? Like the launch of a new platform or
Yeah, I think some stuff like that. Even like, I think one thing that I've been interested in understanding better is digital marketing, like beyond, because everything's owned by streaming platforms right now, right? And then you have your Facebook and Google and all that. I always think in the back of my head, there's got to be a better and newer way to market music digitally, because most musicians cannot afford paying brand dollar for social media marketing because the campaign fees are less and all that. So how do you do that for musicians who maybe can only afford one quarter of that? So that's kind of like what I'm always searching for. I haven't really found anything substantial yet, actually.
Actually, at one of our happy hours recently, there was a musician who hacked the system.
Oh yeah.
Yes, so he was able to relatively successfully, or for the most part, successfully target so well his social media advertising that his streaming revenue always made up for it and then some. Which is really
Introduce him
really
to
great.
us.
Yeah, so that's a really great suggestion, Edwin, like is to really like learn more about that space. Do you have sort of any go-to platforms where you kind of learn more about digital advertising and marketing?
I watch a lot of YouTube videos on that, try to understand it better and all. Yeah.
I actually I've been trying to explore certain like I would consider them like a bit of a tech platform, or they offer like a tech solution where they offer specialized music digital marketing. So platforms like
Which one was that?
Toneden,
Okay,
Toneden,
great.
and there are like two or three other clones like really similar, but they basically offer the same services. Um, they you just need to plug your Google Ads and your Facebook Ads Manager into the system, and they have like certain automated campaigns which you can run from the platform. So it's a bit of an interesting like tech solution. So instead of running the campaign and optimizing and figuring out the tracking pixels, conversions, like the stuff is set up already. You just need to plug your ad account in.
And it auto optimizes it using like the data it receives?
Yeah, and
Wow.
I'm in the process of like trying out all these different platforms to see like which one works best for us. Yeah.
Nice. And I'm sure you stay very up to date on the latest tech. I mean, I would call Apple's new foray into spatial audio a form of
Yes.
music tech news,
Yes,
right? That you've kind of gotten really heavily involved with, Peng Sing. So, do you use a different platform to just to learn about music tech, or is it all part of the same stuff that you're going through right now, like for all of your news?
Um, I think it specifically when it comes to certain like marketing tech things, right? Facebook groups. There are some pretty decent Facebook groups also. Actually, it really just sounds like I'm senang. I'm just holding like checking all these platforms, right? But okay,
That's why you're sitting here, and that's why we're picking your brain, right? Because
I'm learning a
somebody
lot
needs
from
to do
you.
it for us. There's just too much information out there.
But the okay, there's this Facebook group which I really participate a lot in. I just lurk lah. Okay, I don't say anything. It's called Other Record Labels. Yeah, and I think the founder is like a Canadian record label owner dude, and he realizes like a lot of indies are trying to figure out all these technologies all the time. So why not like get all the indies together in one place? It's like it turns out to be a pretty cool space. Lots of great discussions. Yeah. So I just yeah, maybe I'm addicted to social media platforms.
Well, they make it so easy, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the information's out there. They just need a place to kind of where people can gather and exchange thoughts, right? So
Yeah.
That's a great thing about Facebook groups as well. All these groups, Discord group, Clubhouse group, Facebook group. I guess it's also in your ability to search through all of this stuff as well. So the next thing that I wanted to kind of ask about is, all across the world and all across Asia even, there's a lot of music and entertainment companies that are very actively like buying catalogs and merging with each other and, getting themselves ready for major IPOs. Are you guys across all that information? Do you find that information useful in what you guys do? Like when one big company buys up another company's catalog, is that interesting to you, Eddie?
it's interesting to me as an industry person. I don't think that stuff is interesting for the Hip Hop DX Asia audience necessarily, right? But yeah, I'll pay attention to stuff like that. I guess because coming from a background in video media, TV, and all of that stuff, and how the whole streaming wars with all those platforms started coming out, right? And I see that happening for music, and it's cool. I think it's cool, because I think there's certain standards of quality and collaboration that these big companies and bigger brands and bigger artists are able to do once they have these things under their umbrella, right? Yeah.
And and what about you, Edwin, for sort of like a similar thing?
Esmond.
It's what?
Esmond.
Esmond. Sorry. I'm so
We
sorry.
always get
It's they
confused,
do
no
that all the
worries.
time, I know. Can you next time get a partner with a very different name than yours?
No, we make it a point to have everybody in the company.
I know. I
start
surely
with E.
cannot be the only one who does that.
No.
And I probably will do it again once more, so I'm going to apologize for the whole night
All
in
good.
advance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just thinking, like, does that world, because you're more, obviously working on releases and campaigns and putting that out there,
Yeah.
but are you interested in hearing about these mergers and...
Yeah, on the work part, it's good news. I mean, it's interesting news for us to always kind of do our research on the artist as well, because we kind of look at it whether the artist is his catalog is owned by a major label or whether his catalog is owned by independent artists, independent label as well, because that also determines how they work, how nimble they are, what their goals are as well. For like some artists who are maybe much more developed, all they need is just great publicity. But if you go to a smaller artist, a smaller shop, they really just need better streams, a more increase in streams. So that's where we kind of like measure where our work should be, how we tailor our proposals to as well. So I keep track on that end of the spectrum for acquisitions and new signings and all that. But for catalog-wise, we don't do too much work for back catalog stuff. But we recently did something with Aaliyah's label.
Oh, nice.
So we did the publicity work for some of her old records as well. So that was the team had a lot of fun with that, and they're big fans. So I know there was a little bit of drama, between the family and the label, but I think for our staff, and it was a big win, and it didn't really affect how we viewed the project.
Peng Sing, do you have anything to add to this? Do you follow platform pre-IPO activity or catalog purchases as you build up your own catalog?
Yeah, I guess as a person, as a label owner, at some point, if you look at all the labels out there and all the different outcomes for different labels, this is like a difficult conversation, a difficult thing that you have to think about. So yeah, I follow it quite closely, but also the important thing is just to understand like what the big movements are. So for example, one of the the big news is like Universal IPO, right? They list in Amsterdam or in Netherlands, and then Warner recently had IPO as well. And so usually what happens is like when companies IPO, they sit on a pile of money, they raise a lot of money, and so they grow the business. And so if you could somehow do a little bit of digging and research and understand what it means for like the local markets, where you stand within the ecosystem, I guess it could come in useful, but I don't think at this point I'm still too small. I think I need to not at a level yet.
That's a really interesting point, though. I really like that you raised that. It is a very valid point. When companies are pre-IPO, they have more spending money, right? Which is a really great opportunity to potentially approach them about investing in a project that you're working on.
Yeah.
Dream big.
Does it make you feel secure or insecure when you hear all this? Like, do you feel like, oh, I wish my catalog could be like that, or do you kind of make yourself a bit more guarded, to protect your artists, from selling out or whatever?
No, I think I don't feel more guarded, but it does make me feel very insecure, I guess, because you know how when you're an artist, some of the things that make you feel insecure is just like, oh, maybe I'm not getting as many streams, I don't have as many followers. Like when you're running a label, then you are insecure about like certain business things, like am I operating my business correctly, you know, because if I see all these big record labels and this is the way they function, they're in this like space and they're rolling out these kind of campaigns and they are making this kind of like big business plays, am I doing enough to you know, provide the same kind of influence for my artists and whatever lah. Yeah, so
We go through the same motions as well. I remember, so every time we work on a campaign with an artist, and if it comes for renewal or we don't hear from the label or the artist for a while, and then we read news that his or her catalog or they've been signed to a major, then we'll know, oh, okay, maybe we'll lose the gig because majors usually have their own internal teams. But we'll give ourselves a pat on the back because, like, yeah, we did good enough work for them to be signed.
Oh, that's
Maybe
great.
it has-
Yeah, right. You want to keep track on that, and then yeah, it makes sense like why they're not in touch and what more you can do with them. And then it's also interesting because obviously like in the world of media as well, there's media mergers and media platforms expanding to new territories and buying out other things. Do you keep an eye on that? Do you think that that's relevant for our region?
I do. So for even for Hip Hop DX, it was like it was true like an acquisition, right? So Hip Hop DX as a platform was acquired by a major, and through that acquisition, Hip Hop DX could really expand and grow and do really great things, right? So it started with Hip Hop DX US, and after the acquisition, there's DX UK, DX France, DX Latam, DX Brazil, DX Asia,
Wow.
DX Australia just came up, So yeah, so it's something that I definitely keep an eye out for. And like you said, it's always a good opportunity to do something really cool and something really great, and get the backing of somebody to want to invest in your dream, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's really exciting, and like what you need, like sometimes you need that extra support from
Yeah.
that whoever that partner is that you might be getting investment from or what have you. And then what about the majors? I think, the major labels across Southeast Asia are still really relevant, but they also have a different sort of place. So let's include also the local majors in when I talk about like the majors. And, Esmond, you work with mostly indie, but you also work with major labels. So do you feel like you really need to stay on top of what's happening with them on a global level? Do you feel like that affects you on a local level, or do you just stay in touch with what they're doing on a local level?
Yes and no. I think we do have to keep in touch with what goes on a macro level as well, because it'll determine, how much budget an artist has for publicity around the world, whether they outsource their publicity teams as well. I mean, we've worked with clients like Universal Music Canada, and the first thing I asked, like, yo, isn't their local office taking it up? Like, no. So actually, all around the world, actually, a lot of the major, like what we notice is a lot of major label teams work within their territory first. And then if it's given a big direction on a global scale, then they'll start sourcing it out. But I think other offices also have first rights of refusal to work on the catalog as well. So in that aspect, yeah, we do keep a lookout on it. Actually, we really do enjoy working with clients from all types, like all across the spectrum, because it actually gives us a good training as well on how we handle different clients. Because like I said, their goals are different, their expenditure is different as well. Because we don't only just charge our fees, we also take it offline. We partner with social media influencers, social media agencies as well, influencer agencies as well to market the music. We think of campaigns for them as well. So bigger clients tend to have a bigger appetite for all that. If it's an independent client, we just have to be way more creative in using the money. But so yeah, we do keep an eye on all that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing as well about, I guess for some people may not be so aware of that, right? Like that you're actually not working with the local offices who have the teams and the resources and the local network, and more with international offices that are trying to break into this market but don't have the resources internally, which is really quite cool. Are you keeping an eye on the majors, Peng Sing?
Only as much as I have to. I think day to day quite busy already. But I guess within Singapore, sometimes because we have quite a sizable roster, so we do end up getting requests from time to time. If there's like a big artist, they're doing like a rollout, or they're introducing a new artist that they want to bring in Southeast Asia. So sometimes, some of our singer-songwriters might get a call and they do a simple Instagram meet and greet. Those like more fan meet and greets. They help to host certain things. For example, I think a couple months back, Lewis did something with Jeremy Zucker. They were in like a Zoom call. They had like a lot of fans, but there were a lot of artists inside as well. Just like doing some
Very cool.
thing. Yeah.
Nice. And I mean, I feel like the majors have heavily invested in the fastest growing genre globally of hip hop.
Yeah.
So I guess, are you keeping an eye on what they're doing? Does that affect what you do on a day-to-day level?
It does a little bit. It does a little bit. I'm very fortunate. Like when DX was acquired by a major, they allowed me to continue working with other majors, right? So that was very important to me. Like being able to work with everybody, whether you're a major indie underground, like Asian hip hop is Asian hip hop.
Yeah, for a media platform, I imagine so, right?
Yeah,
You
so
need
it's
to
super
help
important.
with-
So I'm very fortunate I was given that I'm able to do that. But yeah, we have to be sensitive sometimes to what's happening around. It's good to know. But we try not to what's the word, abuse our leverage, right? But it does affect a little bit, not too much. Mostly in terms of which artists we have to kind of prioritize, because there's a lot of news and a lot of things that are happening that are coming out of Asia anyway, right?
No, that makes total sense. And I feel like, we began this conversation talking about where to find music business news. And, you've got Billboard, Music Alley, which is UK, but, definitely covers global. Music Business Worldwide, which is also global, but tends to be very Western market focused.
Yeah.
The Music Network in Australia, which is also very Aussie focused. Do you feel like Southeast Asia is missing our version of that? Do you feel like we need to have something like that?
I'll be the first one to say it's gonna be tough. I don't know whether we need one. It would be great, but it's tough because even for us at DX Asia now, language, man, it's just so, because we're so varied. Like 2,000 languages being spoken across Asia. So imagine like each domestic market catering to that language, right? And then having a platform to kind of consolidate all of that and present it in English, it's tough. So I'm speaking from experience as DX
No,
Asia,
it's a very valid point.
yeah.
We
It would be
forget
great to
that
have,
sometimes,
but
yeah.
somebody's got to do it. Come on, Priya.
Trying.
Well, yeah, actually, I never thought about that. The language barriers,
tough, bro.
it's everyone's, and even within, within Southeast Asia, we have 11 countries. There's.
I'll tell you right now, bro. 1,000 languages in Philippines, 1,000 languages in Malaysia. Like how?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not 1,000 lah, but a couple of hundred. Lah, at
Easily,
least.
yeah, hundreds.
Easily a couple hundred, And that's just 2 countries.
It is a very interesting point, though, where, localized. Would there be a localized version of that you're familiar of? Like in Malaysia, for example, is there a localized music industry portal or platform
I believe
about the music business there?
I believe there are groups.
Yeah.
But they're not very big, but they're definitely important, right? They get around and they talk about how they do things. Because I suppose a lot of these guys also, they are not necessarily tied down to a major. They're indie, so they've got their own ways of kind of they've hacked the system in their own way too. Like knowing which Malaysian media people to get in touch with, which editors to talk to, which journalists are friendly with them. So they have their little own communities.
I mean, your platform is helpful.
Yeah.
Gig Life.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, we do not so much about people in the industry or major movements per se. We're not as news heavy. Definitely more about trends and tech platforms and things like that. It's a great source for. But I guess also the industry here is developing, especially in the independent sector. So it's a very small community to have too much written about, like major moves in it. But I guess, in the last couple of minutes, it would be great if each of you could kind of talk through of all of the types of music industry news that are out there, because obviously just, in this brief, like 45 minutes, we've gone over NFTs, tech news, mergers, acquisitions. What is the most interesting to you? I'll start with you, Eddie, and then I'll go all the way around.
Most interesting in terms of music news?
Yeah, like
anywhere.
Is it stuff that labels are doing? Is it stuff, like what are you following in the news when it comes to our industry?
I'm sorry, I just had to laugh at that. I'm a bit eclectic, I suppose. I like bits and pieces of a little bit of everything. I think everybody should go out and try and get as much information as it interests them. I'll be interested in one thing for a minute, and I'll go look at all of that stuff, and then I'll get distracted and I'll go look at something else. So whether it's new artists that are coming up or emerging, or I find it very interesting how artists are kind of diversifying their revenue streams, like starting brands.
Very important.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I like paying attention to that kind of stuff, like artists who go out and start doing other things besides the music. Not so much on the tech for me, but because I guess I'm a bit stupid.
Yeah,
but
to each their own, right?
I
Go
think
ahead,
on
Esmond.
my
Yeah.
end, because I sit in between like music and fashion, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the biggest takes for me over the last couple of years is because streetwear has become so normalized right now.
Yeah.
So it's a really big challenge right now to streetwear brands because of how hip hop is big and how just indie music is big as a whole, right? So basically, you can be a musician right now. You can start your own merchandise line, and because of your captive audience, you can actually be bigger and way more profitable than any other brand out there. Anybody can start a brand right now, and it's just like artists diversifying their revenue streams, and it's a great way because at the end of the day, if you're a fan of an artist, you want to be able to own something of the artist that's tangible, that you can keep for yourself. Back to NFTs again, right?
No, same though, right?
Same thing. Yeah. So I mean, what's stopping an artist with, let's say, 200 million followers on Instagram? I mean, he records a song in the records a song in the toilet, and then releases an NFT. And he only releases 10 NFTs. That may make him a lot of money as well. So I look at it from that point of view, that the whole industry and of everything is just being shaken up right now. You don't really have to start a brand with by going to fashion school anymore. You can build an audience first and then figure things out later. Like Justin Bieber has Drew House, and and Kanye. Look at Kanye's empire that he's built with Yeezy.
Yep.
So that's the most interesting thing that's happened for me in the last 10 odd years.
Absolutely. Feng Sing, what is your favorite kind of music industry news or useful music industry news for what you're doing these days?
I think really just streaming technology, streaming tech platforms. Probably something I've been just reading about in the past week is how a lot of music streaming platforms are becoming double-sided marketplaces. So it's double-sided because they are selling to advertisers, but they're also selling to like audiences, consumers. So they're doing both B2B and the B2C aspects of it. And because the platforms are so big, they have a lot of leverage. Yeah, and it's tech in nature, right? Because that's what platforms do. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know how heavily involved you are in rights management and rights payout as well. So that's really a big part of it. But I guess at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that we are all CEOs and entrepreneurs in the music industry. Most of us are, right? A lot of us are, whether you're an artist especially, and all good entrepreneurs know a lot about their business. So thank you all very much for joining us, and hope you have a great evening.